it's all these different numbers and figures, and it's all very complicated. Intermediate goods, non-intermediate goods, what's in the basket, what's not in the basket, which prices are changing, when did they change, how long are they going to be different, is it the bird flu? So we have a shortage in eggs. How long is that going to last? Does it really matter?
Welcome to One Went the Other Way, a podcast about your journey and finances. I'm your host, James. Today we have Wanda and Peggy with us to discuss the economy. Okay, now that is a very broad term, but let's kind of go into what an economy is.
Before we go into economy, James, I am going to be mindful, right, that the most important thing to your financial planning, of course, is the art of it, right? The amount you're putting away, rate of return and timing, always. And yes, today we are talking about the economy.
Yes. And so the economy is the wealth and resources of a country or region, especially in terms of their production and consumption of goods and services. Today, we're really more looking at the U.S. economy because the U.S. is kind of the leading economy in the world. We're just going to use that. And we're all from the U.S., so that also makes sense.
So we're just going to choose to be ethnocentric.
Ethnocentric. And that's okay, because today I was reading a little bit about the German economy, which is the third largest in the world nominally, which, nice to know. There are other countries in the world. Our focus, of course, is with the people we work with, the American economy.
We're going to talk about some measurements here of an economy. And so Wanda's going to start with GDP. Peggy's going to bring in CPI. Those are the two main ones that we look at from the economics point of view. So Wanda, go ahead, take it away.
Okay, so to clarify, the economy is really rooted in the GDP and the CPI. And for GDP, right, that is the monetary value of goods and services produced in a country during a specific time period. And the reason that's relevant to the economy is we consider that as our economic scorecard, so to speak. How are we doing in producing? And it's got four components. It's got consumer spending, which is what you and I spend on goods and services. Investments, which is what businesses spend. And businesses spend money on places of business, capital goods, that kind of thing, as well as inventory, right? That's part of their investments. Third component, government spending. And government spending is anything that's done in schools, roads, and defense primarily. And then one of the ones that are hitting the news these days, import-export line, right?
CPI is the consumer price index. So that is how much the prices change over a specific period of time for a basket of goods. So a basket of goods, those are specific items that is measured over a specific period of time, how much the price increases or decreases. So it's really quite simple. They're going to be like staple goods. I think that milk is one of them, eggs, those kind of goods. They probably have different baskets. They talk about different types of goods, but they're generally like eggs is a big topic right now, right? Because of the bird flu. And so egg prices are really high right now. And then that makes your basket go up by a little bit, but it's really just one good maybe. Or maybe
I see bacon's in there. Okay. We got all the breakfast foods.
Yes, breakfast is a very important meal. So it is important, and they put it in there. So, hey, good for them. So that's basically what CPI is.
A lot of them, I mean, the big ones that we see are like gas, fuel, even like car and truck rentals are included. You'll even see things like you see like the food items you would buy in the grocery store. But for instance, window coverings is part of it. This is not all the list. This is just a list of inflation surges that we're seeing higher levels of inflation. So it's starting with gasoline, fuel, used trucks and cars, car and truck rentals, propane, kerosene, and firewood, other lodging away from home, including hotels and motels, utilities, uncooked beef roasts, uncooked beef steaks, bacon and related products, living room, kitchen, dining room furniture, uncooked ground beef, and window coverings. So those are the things that are being hit by inflation the most, but those are items that are included in the CPI.
Well, it's important also to note that the items that are included change over time.
Yes, they do.
Right. So they do change over time to reflect changes in our habits of spending. So that's also another factor. So it's really a complicated thing. So it could be different items this quarter as next quarter.
So
That's
I'm
correct.
curious, window coverings, are they counting that as like screens, or are we talking like drapes or curtains or
Well, see, that's another thing. There's a subjectivity to it because I don't know which
exactly?
one it
I
is,
don't know what they're using
but
either for
I
that.
would suspect that they're using curtains
I
because
would
they
think.
also use things like new house starts,
Hmm.
right, as one of the measures for things. And so when you have new house starts, new house finishes probably need window dressings.
And just for the audience to know, there's a term that we use in economics for this and just in research in general. It's called proxy. These are proxy variables. They are using this as a
Right.
we're going to have this as a standard. It's going to represent a whole. So yeah, as you're saying, new house starts. Maybe it is new curtains. You're trying to renovate your home or brighten it up, but that's going to be a proxy for how much are people working on their home, for instance.
Right. And then there's other things that go in there that is part of the factors too, because you think about they're not all staples, right? So you have staples. So these are non-discretionary spending, right? These are things you must buy. You need them. And then there's going to be some discretionary spendings. I would say that window coverings are discretionary spending. So when they're looking at the basket, how much of the basket is going to be things that I have to buy, how many things that I could buy or I could do without, and then the change in the price of those items over time.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the basket changes by our use of those items. So it helps to measure. So, say we all have a whole basket full of discretionary items, so things that are not required. We don't need those items to survive. That shows a change in consumer spending habits.
Mm-hmm. Beef steaks, for instance, you're likely to
Right.
buy like a nicer a steak if your income
Right.
is better or your expenses in your household are less, and so therefore you'd be more likely to buy a normal good versus an inferior good, which is something you
Right.
would buy more of if you had less money. That would be like beans, for instance. That's what economists usually look at. They do the steak versus beans example.
Who says what's in the basket of goods and how often that's changed? In that GDP is changed quarterly.
So here's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Beginning in with 2023 indexes, the BLS will update CPI spending weights annually, reflecting spending from 2 years prior. So every year. So we're talking about these variables that we are looking at for CPI, and I quickly want to hit on what isn't and is included in GDP because we did talk about that. So I really want to quickly say things that are in GDP, the purchases you make for items and services that are final goods. So like if you go get a cup of coffee somewhere, that would be included in GDP. However, if you bought beans and you intended to make coffee with those beans and sell that coffee, those beans are not included.
But if I buy it as a consumer and I take it to my house, now it
That
is
is a
a
final
GDP
good.
item.
Yes.
So
Um,
anything that's going to change before the consumer touches it is an intermediate good. So if you're buying it and you get it from a store and you're the end consumer, that is included in GDP.
mhm.
If you're buying it and you're going to add it to something, make something with it, or change it in any way, and then sell it to a consumer, that is an intermediate good.
Thrift goods, those are not included. Those are already in the economy. It is a second-hand purchase.
Yes.
That's not included. Purchase of stocks and bonds, not included in GDP, surprising to some people. And then Social Security benefits, those are transfer payments. Those are not involved in GDP as well. However, things that are investment spending by a company, maybe they build a new factory, or who knows, a government builds a new school, that would also be included in GDP. That's government spending. And then any exports that we send out. So let's say we, I don't know, made fighter jets and then we sent them to another country. That would be included in GDP. But these are all just kind of painting a picture that it's these numbers do not really affect your day to day. And economists use these numbers to understand the economy. But is this relevant to consumers?
There's lots and lots of noise, and it's all these different numbers and figures, and it's all very complicated. Intermediate goods, not intermediate goods, what's in the basket, what's not in the basket, which prices are changing, when did they change, how long are they going to be different, is it the bird flu, so we have a shortage in eggs, how long is that going to last, does it really matter, right? So the answer is what really matters is your art, your amount you invest, your rate of return, and the time that you're invested. So stick with your plan, communicate. The economists and the politicians are all watching these numbers and they're all involved in it. We want you to stick with your art, right? Talk to us, talk to your advisor about your amounts, your rates of return, and your time.
I will say, in a future podcast, we are going to be talking about inflation. We didn't really touch on it much in this podcast, but GDP has a version of it that looks at inflation, and we will talk about that more in a later episode of this podcast. We probably will talk more about eggs and how that price got inflated too in that at that podcast as well. Who knows? Maybe by the time that podcast comes out, the price of eggs will be down. It'll be over by then, but who knows? You can never predict anything. So
yes, and we'll be talking about bacon then, but I don't know.
It might be bacon at that point, or window coverings. So
you never
anyways,
know.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast on the economy. Remember your art. If you want to meet with Wanda or Peggy, you can find us at financesforreallife.com. Schedule an appointment on the top right of the page. You can find us on Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube for this podcast. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advice offered through Finances for Real Life, a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.